Hello there. I'm Dr. Terry James Gingrass, and this is Dr. G's ADHD Chat, which at some time in the near future may be just called ADHD Chat with Dr. G. I'm, we're working on it. Anyway, and this is a show trying to make the world safe for ADHDers. I'm a clinical psychologist and neuropsychologist, and I'm also the father of a couple of ADHD kids, and I'm also married into a whole family that's got ADHD. And frankly, when I look at my own relatives, I'm not so sure about them either. But I can safely say none of them were ever diagnosed. But one of the things I know about, both from my family interactions and my professional work, I mean, I've worked with ADHD families, ADHD adults, ADHD executives, uh, ADHD kids, and I've also worked with alcoholics and substance abusers of various types. And so today I want to talk about ADHD and alcohol abuse because ADHDers are way more prone to have alcohol problems than neurotypicals. Okay, now we're talking, well, I've seen a couple of different numbers, but one author says that ADHD people are 43% more likely to become alcoholic. And another says that ADHDers are 2 to 3 times more likely than neurotypicals to become alcoholic. And when you think about ADHD and some of the common manifestations of ADHD, it's not hard to imagine that there are a lot of reasons why they would be more likely to become alcoholics. First of all, they take more risks than neurotypicals. You get to see a bunch of teenagers out on their motorcycles or mountain bikes or whatever they own, and they'll be constantly challenging each other to see who's going to go off the highest jump, or see if they can jump down the cliff into the pond, or all sorts of daring do and that kind of thing. And I bet you can't drink the whole thing is just not even far away from their what they normally do. It's so that impulsivity, that risk taking, yeah, they're going to try it. And of course, once they get so they're comfortable with drinking, then who knows what else they'll be exposed to. So frequently, polysubstance abuse becomes an issue. But we're going to stick with the ADHD stuff right now. But so it's that impulsivity, that tendency to go for the thrill, those kinds of things result in wanting to see if you can drink later than everybody else, wanting to see if you can drink all night long, wanting to see if you can finish the whole bottle. All of those things lead to alcohol abuse. And then, of course, I have never yet met an ADHDer, especially as an adult, who wasn't looking for some kind of way to feel better. I mean, it would not necessarily be anything as logical as going to the doctor and getting put on stimulant medication. Oh no, it's we'll try this hallucinogen, or we'll try this psychedelic, or we'll try this sleep med or this stimulant med, but not prescribed. Just see what might do it. And I mean, honestly, you can understand they're just trying to feel better, but Lord, some of the things they end up doing, and alcoholism or alcohol by itself is a full body destroyer, I guess I will say. I mean, alcohol is things I'm most concerned about is alcohol messes with your brain after a while. People who constantly abuse alcohol, get what, in the informal thing, they call it a wet brain or a dry drunk, or, I mean, it's that even though they're not actually drinking, or maybe they still are, but their brain is not working right anymore. They've caused significant damage to their brains. And you can get a form of dementia from drinking too much. And we know this, we've seen this. I've treated it a number of times. It's not a lot of fun, and it's a horrible waste. And I mean, I worked for a while. I worked in an inpatient alcohol rehab program. It was, we would see people come in, and a lot of folks, this was in Tucson, and the hospital was a VA hospital in South Tucson, which was the inner city of Tucson, and that's where people came to after they had pretty much exhausted their other options. And then so a lot of times, we'd come in on Monday morning, and the police would have swept up a number of people who just couldn't function anymore. And after about 3 or 4 weeks of medical detox, we'd see them in our treatment program. And I remember any number of people who just sat there. You have most alcohol treatment programs have a lot of community meetings. So you're sitting there in a community meetings with every person who's in the program, and these guys are brand new and they can't form a word. I mean, they're sitting there shaking, and you try to talk to them and get them to respond, and nothing, because it's not just the alcohol, it's that they haven't been eating at all, so their nutrition is terrible. And that really also affects how badly and how quickly and how completely it affects your brain. So I remember it wasn't just one, it was dozens actually, and all of a sudden after about 3 or 4 weeks in the program, they'd say, "Hi, my name is Fred. I'm an alcoholic." And, and most of us said, "Oh my God, I didn't even know he could talk." And then, thereafter we could start making some progress with them. But drinking as much as they were drinking, and ignoring their diet and their health in any way at all, caused significant brain damage, which sometimes did not resolve at all, or much. It was enough that they could talk and walk a little bit, but it wasn't their former capacities. And as a young neuropsychologist, it's a brain doctor if you're not familiar with the term. It was frightening to see. It really was. So the brain is the big one I am concerned about, but most people think of alcoholism, they think of liver problems. And yeah, I mean, most alcoholics, their livers cannot detoxify alcohol as fast as they're putting it in. It's let's see what you can process we used to say about a shot of alcohol an hour. And if you were doing, this is, liquor, whiskey, whatever you want to call it, but that we would say, that if you drink more than that, and, one of the frightening things I'm seeing now is that the emphasis on drinking socially, it seems to be doing shots, and that is like, oh my God, Your liver cannot detoxify. If you're drinking 2 or 3 shots an hour or something like that, your liver can't detoxify that fast enough. And so you build up a toxic level of alcohol, and that causes more damage faster than a more measured intake of alcohol. So that is, man, that I saw some things with alcohol. If you've ever seen anybody in active DTs, delirium tremens, that is, when they're trying to give up alcohol. I remember one kid. Actually, he was a fairly young man. He was in his 20s, I think, but he was going through DTs, and he was in a intensive care unit. And that's they've got all the oxygen tubes and all that sort of stuff. And he was hallucinating that they were snakes, and that they were going to get him. And he was very agitated and needed a lot of extra help to be able to just tolerate going through withdrawal. And then once you've been through withdrawal once, it doesn't, like it says, man, I don't ever want to do that again. Well, not necessarily. It's a lot of times they go right back to it. I remember when in this same alcohol treatment unit I worked in, we had this guy, and he became a star. He was our best. He was president of the community and doing a really great job, and everybody had all kinds of hope that he would, rebuild his life, and so on and so on. And so he was eventually discharged, and I don't think it was a week, maybe 2 weeks later, found out he was dead. He had moved in with his mother, and he got drunk as a lord, and then got up on a ladder and fell down, broke his neck, and died. And it was like, working with alcohol abuse and working with substance abuse in general is a hard way to go. It's not, well, you get a lot of disappointments. Let's just say that as a therapist, and it's a hard thing to do. Treatment is a mixed. There are always these people saying, oh, well, it used to be the big deal was controlled drinking. We're going to teach you how to drink in a controlled manner. And that typically was a colossal failure. Once you get 2 drinks in you, you want 3. And once 3, you want 4, and so on, if you're an alcoholic, that is. And so the treatments have been sort of all over the place. I remember when I was working in that field, there were big hopes for a thing called antabuse, which was supposed to block your body's ability to metabolize alcohol, and therefore you'd get sick as a dog if you drank. And this will keep it in. I don't know how many patients who drank right through it. I got sick, but I can handle it. I got sick before too, so what was a big deal? So, treatments are tough to say they have a high success rate, because they just don't. But there are still people who are on the line, trying to do the best they can to help people. But first thing you got to do is you got to detox. And that's, well, it depends on how bad the drinking problem is. But with insurance tightening up, you don't get huge amounts of time to do detox. When I was working in the field, we had this was before managed care, we had unlimited time to detox. And now detox is 72 hours and you get a handful of Librium or something to take home, and it's not a good system anyway. It doesn't work very well. But you do the detox, then usually there's and sometimes people go inpatient, but most of the time it's not paid for by health insurance. You get you end up having to pay, or your family has to pay, and then you have a certain period of time, maybe 6 weeks. I don't know, it varies, but then you are discharged, and usually it's recommended that you start attending AA, which is Alcoholics Anonymous, which has been around since the 20s, and is one of the few systems that just kind of stays the way it is. It's famous, and for a lot of people, it's very effective. If they buy into it, you've got to accept. I had to accept that I was powerless over alcohol. A lot of people have trouble with that one, and and then you have to also. There are numerous AA meetings in any town, city, pretty much around the world, but you have to accept the premise, accept that you can't do this on your own, and you need help, and these people will help you. And you've also got to you got to go to a few meetings in different places and different locations, because you'll find some that have more people that you resonate with, and some that are people you don't. I'm only 30 and these people are all 80 years old. That we don't have a lot in common. Yeah, that sort of stuff. But it's a fairly effective program, and I recommend, if you have somebody who's an alcoholic, that they start attending meetings regularly. And used to be, and I'm sure it's probably still is, that you try to do 100 meetings in a row when you first start, and then you can taper it off a little bit. But that's it. And the other thing is that it is an excellent idea to be in some kind of psychotherapy with somebody who's experienced working with alcoholism. Understand that there's an awful lot of people who don't know much about alcoholism, and a lot of them are doctors, a lot of them are MDs, a lot of them are social workers and psychologists who just, that's not, they wanted to work with anxiety and depression. They didn't particularly want to work with substance abuse, because substance abuse, you got to be a little tougher. You've got to set up things and be a little stronger. You have to be a little more confrontational, perhaps, than when you're just working with anxiety and depression. But that's one of the things, you have to decide, and one of the things most people don't know a whole lot about. But, when you're just because you've got a degree doesn't mean that you do everything that could be covered by the degree. You've got a couple of areas that are really strong for you, and a couple of areas that maybe you don't know much about. Okay, and ADHD makes it more likely that you're going to have problems with alcohol. Okay, it's not 100%, obviously, but it's pretty high. And if we got parents out there, you didn't do anything wrong. Okay, it's just the name of the game, and sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't, and you are not doing a thing wrong. If your kid or your adult child is an alcoholic, it's not because of you, except in the sense that it's a genetic thing and you probably passed it on. But that's ADHD, that's alcoholism. Both of them are tough things to beat. I mean, you you got to accept what you've got, and you've got to figure out what you can do to live a reasonable life. I mean, there are people out there right now who are going to drink themselves to death. They're going to get drunk as a lord until their liver dies on them, or they're going to get drunk as a lord and try to see how fast the car will go at 3 o'clock in the morning. We have a ton of automobile accidents that are related to alcohol abuse. And, these are, you get drunk, you start driving really fast. It's kind of a thrill. And then you do something that's beyond your ability to control it. And you end up killing yourself and maybe some other people as well. So it's not a fun place, and it's not a fun topic, frankly. But it is something we have to deal with. Okay, this is about as much fun as I think we're going to have today. So I'm thinking I may do a few more sessions on this topic. Hopefully a little more balanced and a little less dramatic. And my website is terrygingrassphd.com. Sign up for a discovery session, as they call them. It's just a freebie that we talk and see if maybe I can be helpful to you, and if you and I can stand talking to each other. So the like I said, the podcast is, I've been doing this for 7 or 8 years now, maybe 9 now, come to think of it. And I do it because I want to help out a little bit and give people some information. Because I know the hardest thing about, I'm a parent of an ADHD kid, of a couple of ADHD kids. And at first I didn't know anything about ADHD, and I felt guilty as sin for not knowing what to do with these kids, and mostly things have worked out. There's still some bumps in the road that we have to deal with, but it is not your fault. Okay? It's not your fault. It's a hard thing to deal with, and it's complicated, and it takes a lot of effort and energy, and sometimes even your best effort isn't going to work out well, but you do what you can do. And like I said, it's not your fault. Okay, we will catch you next time, and be good to yourself.